5. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Green, for 30 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And still I rise, Madam Speaker, proud to be an unbought, unbossed, liberated Democrat. Proud also to have friends. And tonight I'd like to thank a couple of my friends who have helped me with an endeavor that I believe is necessary and that is going to generate a movement that will make a difference in the lives of the people of this country. So tonight I'd like to start by thanking my friend, Attorney John Boniface, a lawyer par excellence, a person who has been involved with the movement to impeach and who has, through his organization, Free Speech for People, they have collected more than 500,000 signatures for impeachment. These are the people who are at the genesis of this movement, and I want to thank all of them for what they are doing. I also would like to thank another friend, lawyer as well, but a great consumer advocate, a protector of rights for people who we consider consumers. And that, of course, is the attorney Ralph Nader, the great Ralph Nader. And while I missed his last birthday, I heard it was quite a celebration. He is 91 years young. And I'm grateful to him for all that he's done. He's done things that have benefited people when it comes to safety with automobiles, safety with consumer products, generally speaking. So I thank them both for what they've done in this effort to impeach and to inspire me to do the things that I will do and call to your attention. I would also like to make note that on this evening, I have filed articles of impeachment. The articles are H-Res 415. I say articles, there's really but one article within this resolution. I will not read the resolution. There will be an appropriate time to read it. This is not that time. But I do want to call to your attention the fact that I have been censured not silenced. And I say this because I'll be presenting this resolution, but I have many more things to say about the effort that we are embarking upon. And because this effort is so important to us, I will be talking about it a good deal of the time in the future. I am censured, but I'm not silenced. I am at this moment bringing to the attention of everyone the countdown to impeachment. The countdown. The countdown begins tonight with a message that I have for my colleagues, for the press, for the public, for all who are interested in this topic. And this message will be sent to persons. It will be published. It will be on my website. It will be available to those who desire to know the essence of it. The message reads with a reference, and the reference is my reason for impeaching the president. The threat that we said Donald John Trump posed to democracy prior to his being sworn in on January 20th, 2025, has become our reality. To whom it may concern, I penned this communique with a heavy heart, driven with a conscience that will not allow me to ignore my well-founded, strong pre-election condemnation of Donald John Trump as a threat to American democracy that has now become our reality. Currently, I am among the many who denounced President Trump as an authoritarian, defined by Merriam-Webster as relating to or favoring the concentration of power in a leader or an elite not constitutionally responsible to the people. I'm among those who have pointed out President Trump's failure to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution by flouting constitutional law as well as the orders of federal courts, including the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I'm among those who strongly denounce the president's dangerous flouting of separation of powers and undermining the independence of the federal judiciary by calling for the impeachment of federal judges who rule against him rather than appealing the decisions as was explained to all by Chief Justice John Roberts on March 18, 2025. I'm among the throngs who know that the president violates the Fifth Amendment constitutional right to due process when he condones the deportation by our Justice Department of anyone residing in the United States of America to another country without providing them with constitutionally mandated legal process owed to present evidence of why they shouldn't be deported. Regrettably, the president is doing the above things that I've just mentioned in tandem with expressions of American citizens being deported, while condoning the potential suspension of the great writ of habeas corpus, another fundamental constitutional right. I cannot in good conscience, as a member of Congress, having said what I have said, knowing what I know, wait until the next election to deal with authoritarian President Donald John Trump's pre-election threat to American democracy that has become a post-election assault on our government. The president has devolved American democracy into authoritarianism with himself as the authoritarian. Authoritarian President Donald John Trump is the problem. The threat of impeachment can act as a deterrent. Should that fail, actual impeachment becomes the solution. Having presented articles of impeachment that laid the foundation for President Trump's prior impeachment, I should say impeachments, which contributed to his presidential defeat, I am compelled by my moral imperative, driven by my conscience, to act again. In Article 65 of the 85 articles of essays contained within the Federalist Papers, written to promote the ratification of the Constitution, the great Alexander Hamilton explains that the subject of the Senate's jurisdiction for trials of impeachment are those offenses which proceed from the misconduct of public men, or in other words, from the abuse of violation of some public trust. They are of a nature which may, with peculiar propriety, be denominated political, as they relate chiefly to injuries done immediately to society itself. Contrary to what many status quo personalities may have you believe and would have you believe, there is no requirement for the existence of a constitutional crisis before impeaching for high crimes and misdemeanors. Because of the importance of this statement, I shall repeat it. Contrary to what many status quo personalities would have us believe, there is no requirement for the existence of a constitutional crisis before impeaching for high crimes and misdemeanors. In fact, in 1868, President Andrew Johnson was impeached for speaking ill of Congress in Article 10 of the Articles of Impeachment against him. Federal Judge John Pickering became the first person convicted by the Senate. He was impeached by the U.S. House of Representatives in 1803 for misconduct as a judge and for intoxication. He was impeached and convicted under the same constitutional law that all presidents have been impeached under. Typically, there has been no constitutional crisis associated with articles of impeachment. I have to repeat this because there seems to be the notion that you must wait for the constitutional crisis before you can initiate impeachment. Typically, there has been no constitutional crisis associated with articles of impeachment, although a constitutional crisis can exist without any crime having been committed. An authoritarian does not have to commit a codified statutory offense to be impeached. I raise this point because there are many people who are of the opinion that there must be some statutory criminal law that has been violated before one can be impeached. Not the case. Not the case at all. The constitutional law that authoritarian President Trump would have Congress use to impeach a federal judge for ruling against him, that would be Article 2, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, is the same law that has been used and can be used to impeach him again for making his threats to democracy a reality. I will use that law again. Former President Gerald Ford was right. He was right then and now when he proclaimed that an impeachable offense is whatever a majority of the House of Representatives considers it to be at a given moment in history. Whatever a majority of the House of Representatives consider it to be at a given moment in history. For edification purposes, the members of the House who vote on impeachment are not given any instructions as you might expect a jury to be given. No one can tell them what the definition is such that they must honor what they are told. People can suggest, but ultimately, they are the judges of what impeachment is, and the standard that they use, they need not reveal to anyone. Waiting for a constitutional crisis to impeach can be the forerunner to tanks on American streets. Acting now with my single vote to impeach can function as a wake-up call to impeach, as well as deter an authoritarian president and avert a constitutional crisis. I believe in the power of one. I believe that one person can make a difference. I believe that one person who has the ability to take a stand to make a difference, I believe that that one person should. Acting now, as was done before, can also become a part of the genesis of a public movement similar to that which led to authoritarian Donald Trump's prior impeachments and defeat at the polls in 2020, the presidential election year when he was defeated. I said now, acting now could become the genesis of a public movement. That is the movement that my good friends with Free Speech for People have initiated, the movement that people across the country are engaged in and talking about. I don't claim that what we're doing tonight is the genesis. I think it is a part, but I don't think it is the genesis. And as such, I would say to persons who would tell me, well, he won't run again. Why would you impeach? To them, I would say, because he doesn't have to have another term within this term of office. I believe that he can be impeached for what he has done immediately. Whether he will be or not will be a decision for this Congress. But I believe that he can be and should be. And although he won't run again, members of Congress who aid and abet America's devolution into authoritarianism will. This bears repeating as well. Although he won't run again, members of Congress who aid and abet America's devolution into authoritarianism will. I have not asked, nor will I ask, any members of Congress to stand with me. I encourage all members to vote your conscience. As for me, I stand where I've always stood on the question of impeachment, which of course is a question of conscience for me. And because it's a question of conscience, even when the odds are against me, my position is, it is better for me to stand alone than not stand at all. And if I have to, it won't be the first time. I believe that it is a question of conscience because it impacts the entire country. It impacts the lives of people within the country. The act that would bring us to the point of impeaching is something that impacts society in a negative way, impacts the lives of people in an adverse way. I believe this is a question of conscience. And because I believe it's a question of conscience, I don't tell others how they should conduct themselves. And I've not had any members to tell me how I should conduct myself. I believe that how I conduct myself in terms of trying to do what I perceive to be the right thing is something that is between me and my conscience. As a member of Congress, I consider these actions by authoritarian President Trump harmful to society and impeachable. Condoning the flouting of federal court orders, flouting the separation of powers, undermining the independence of the federal judiciary, and flouting the constitutional mandate of due process, all of which have devolved our democracy into authoritarianism. I opposed authoritarian President Donald Trump's behavior that made him a threat to our democracy prior to his election and have witnessed that threat become a reality. Therefore, I cannot in good conscience fail to take action that the Constitution provides to protect the American people. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. addressed such questions of conscience when he proclaimed, "Cowardice will ask the question when you're confronting these questions of conscience." This is what he said. Cowardice will ask the question, is it safe? Is this the safe thing for me to do? Can I get hurt physically by doing this? Is it safe for me to traverse my neighborhood, to move across the country? Is it safe for me to do it? Cowardice asks this question. He goes on to say, expediency asks the question, is it politic? Is this good for politics? Will this help me to ascend to some lofty position? Or will this bring me down? Will this be something that can hurt my career? This is what Dr. King is saying. Is it politic? And then he says vanity. Ask the question, is it popular? Will I lose my smiles that I'm greeted with? Will the people that normally carry on conversations avoid me? Will they seek to make me a pariah simply because I have done what I believe to be right? Not telling anybody else what they must do. This is what Dr. King is saying. Is it popular? And then he goes on to say, but conscience asks the question, and I say the ultimate question. Conscience asks the question, is it right? And then he closes with this crescendo. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular. One must take it because conscience dictates, conscience tells one that it is right. I understand that my stance may be neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but I honor the wisdom of Dr. King and take my stance because my conscience says it's right. It is not unusual for the U.S. House of Representatives to vote multiple times before passing important legislation. Although the first vote is not always the victorious vote, it is not always the final vote, but it can be a foundational vote. It can be the vote that can lay the predicate for things to come. I have filed and will make H-Res 415. H-Res 415. The articles of impeachment available to the press and the public and all who would desire to know what's contained herein. I will call for a vote to impeach authoritarian Donald John Trump at a time to be determined, knowing that the American people don't expect me to always win. I want to elaborate on this before I could finish this sentence. The American people don't expect me. I don't speak for anybody else. This is my belief. I don't believe that the American people expect me to always win. But they do want to know that on the great issues of my time, when there was great challenge and controversy, they want to know where I stood and where I stand. They want to know, are you willing to fight for the people that you represent? Are you willing to take a stand for people you'll never meet and greet, but do it because it is not only the right thing, it's the righteous thing. So the American people don't expect me to always win. And I sometimes measure my friendships by the people who are willing to fight. Fight even when the odds are against you. Fight even when you know that you're not likely to be victorious. I think there's something about people who are willing to take up a cause because they know it's a cause worthy and worthwhile, a cause that can make a difference in the lives of people. You may not win, but you'll know that you took a stand for righteousness, that you made a difference, maybe not at that moment, but in the long run, the difference will be made. So the American people don't expect me to always win. However, I do believe they expect me to always fight. And I don't mean in a pugilistic fashion with fisticuffs. I mean to stand up and be counted on the great issues of my time and their time, our time, on the issues that confront the nation and indeed the world. I'm honored that the American people have allowed me to have this position. And I'm not going to allow posterity to look back upon my tenure in Congress and say that when we had the opportunity, or I had the opportunity, to take a stand for justice even when it might cost me a career, cost me a lack of popularity, cost me a lack of safety. I want people to know that I took the stand that could make a difference. I want my friends to know that I appreciate all of you who have stood with me over this journey. I want my staff to know that I appreciate you greatly for standing with me. In fact, we stand together. I have a great staff, people who are committed not to work. They're committed to a cause. They're committed to the cause that we extol when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, liberty and justice for all. They're committed to a cause of making sure that we maintain government of the people, by the people, for the people. They're committed to a cause that says William Cullen Bryant is right. Truth crushed to earth shall rise again. And they understand that when we do these things, people will say bad things and ugly things, but they understand that truth crushed to earth shall rise again. This is a great staff. They appreciate Carlyle. They appreciate his wisdom. No lie can live forever. Let them say what they may. Let others do what they may. We will do what we must and take a stand for liberty and justice for all. I've got a great team, and I want them to know how much I appreciate and thank them for what they do. This morning, I had 2 members of my team to come in at 8 o'clock a.m. Someone would say, well, that's not really early. But it is when you're still with me at this hour, after 7 o'clock, nearly 7:30, still over in the office, working. I've got a great team. So I want to thank my team. But I also want to thank the people who serve right here on the floor, all of you. I want to thank you for your kindness and your courtesies and your willingness to help persons who are trying to find their way. I want to thank you, court reporters, clerks. I want to thank the parliamentarian for being a true to his mission person, neither siding with neither Democrats nor Republicans or anybody, but always giving you the information as the rules permit him to provide it. I want to thank him and all of the people in that office. And Madam Speaker, I want to thank you. This for me is a historic moment. I thank you for the time that I've had. And to the persons who work in the cloakroom, let me not forget them. Always gracious and kind. I thank all of you, Sergeant at Arms, and I yield back the balance of my time.